All right, welcome to the Compliance Weekly Sync for the 6th of June. And the first item is to go through the milestone board and just go through the closed issues. So I'll share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. And the last one I think we talked about was the adherence report back-end technical implementation plan. So next is update UI navigation for compliance related docs. From Evan, does anyone else know about this one? No, okay, we'll jump over it. The next one was framework not supported in personal namespaces with Camellia, the design.
I think the design is done. So it was like about I think you already created MR for it. Just remove the button and leave the space. So
yes. Right, and the next one was omit all instance audit events with Hitesh.
So now instance level audit events are being emitted to external destinations, which are set on instance. There was a bug in it, not exactly in it, but while destroying a non-existent destination, which Josefa pointed out, and I'll be fixing in the coming MRs.
Cool. I'm not even going to say that. This one, Michael.
Yeah, this was adding an index, so it was like this is the synchronous part. So follow up first, we had to add the index asynchronously in the background. That had to run. It took, I think, 3 weekends to finish on all the audit event partitions. That finished, was able to merge in this. This adds it to the synchronous, so it'll be in self-managed GitLab and everything, and in this schema. So yeah, pretty small merge request. Just had to wait on a while for the asynchronous stuff to run.
Great. The next one was the adherence report, the front-end technical implementation plan. So I can speak to this one. I know Jay and I caught up and went over the front-end plan and created a pretty solid plan. And I know the GraphQL issue has been updated and a whole bunch of front-end issues created off the back of that and have been started already. So that's into it. Next was the triggered child pipelines won't start compliance pipelines. Hitesh?
So this was raised by a customer, and they in the child project, the compliance pipeline was not getting triggered when it was the pipeline of child project was being triggered from the parent project's pipeline. The issue was that the customer was using child pipelines instead of using multi-project pipelines. So after suggesting that to use them, it started working for them. So there was nothing much done in that.
Good support though, and learning for us. The next one was auditing project token activity. Josefa?
Yep. So we had a couple of things to be audited from a project token activity, like creating issues or adding comments to an issue. I created a couple of MRs to resolve those, and I also summarized it at the end with a comment. So we have, I guess, 2 or 3 events still left, but I've moved all of them to the auth group because that's the group which owns this particular feature. So from us, it's closed. Yep, this is the table. So we added these events in the MRs, and then we have still remaining 3 events which are deprioritized by the product team. So I just created a new issue and assigned the auth label to them.
Right. Next one was add an option to allow force push to protected branches with Ilia.
Yeah, basically right now we've finally solved a very big annoyance when developer who has no maintainer permissions created project into the group did not initialize it with README. So we have a basically empty repo, and he or she stuck in the weird situation where the project is here, but he or she can't push can't push anything because there is no main branch, and he is and it is considered protected by default. So basically, right now, the very first push to the empty repository is always allowed when this setting is active. So the developer could initialize the project, and after that, open merge requests there. So everything should be more logical than it was.
Nice, that does sound like a good annoying thing to fix. Next one was set the status back to pending on retry. I think this is to do with the status checks. MR status checks. Does anyone else know, since this was with Jay?
I reviewed this one. This was one of the long pending MRs that we had, like created almost 2 months ago, more than 2 months. I did the final maintainer review for this one. It's should be in production now. The thing was, like, even if we were retrying the status check, a failed status check on the UI, we were not able to see that feedback. So what now happens is when you click the retry button for a failed status check, you get a pending status again, where the spinner is spinning and waiting for the status check. So it gives a feedback to the user that their check has been retried.
Nice. The next two are with Hasma, which is audit event type schema definitions and display subgroup deletion in the top level group.
Yeah, so the bottom one is where we are defining the audit event type schema for various events. For this specific issue, there were 3 services which already had event events, so I just simply close the issue. The above one is basically displaying the subgroup deletion in top level group. So I tried reproducing this on local, and already produces the audit event which has a message that we need subgroup. So I close it.
And the next one was the framework bulk area. This was just a UI update to the framework report and the bulk area, and just improving some of the UX there. We've got an end-to-end test for simple compliance pipelines now set up as well, which Mark has completed today. So it's great to have that in there. And we've got an OKR to get 4 more in by the end of the quarter. So got a pretty ambitious to get the quality up in the compliance features. And the next one was password controller. So this was an error that came through yesterday in prod due to a MR that Aaron had been working on and has been reverted back. He just needs to fix some tests there. Cool. Next thing on the list is to go through the planning issue and just get an update on all our initiatives and see how we're going. So the first one was the instance level streaming audit events with Hitesh.
Yeah. So the stream instance level external audit event destinations have been APIs related to those APIs related to those external destinations are already in production, along with the migration for streaming headers in them. In the audit events on an instance level are being emitted to the destinations that are being added. The MR for creating and listing the headers for those destinations is in under review. And the subsequent MRs for updation, deletion of headers as well as filters are coming.
Right, next up is the compliance adherence report with Josefa.
Yep. So we have finalized the backend as well as the front-end requirements for this one, and I've started working on the backend part. The first one was to actually create a database table. I've created an MR for this and pushed it to review, while Jay is also working on this simultaneously on the front-end part. So this is on track.
Right. The next one was the managed compliance frameworks, and that's with me. So this had been on the list, but this was before Ilya's borrow. So this is actually on hold now. And while we just review the framework, and it'll probably drop off in the following milestone planning. Next is blocking merge requests if they're failed status checks with Jay. So the goal was to complete 2, and it looks like 1 has been completed based on what we just talked about. So that's on track. Next was the audit event performance limits with Hasima.
Yep. So for this one, the schema is already complete, and I'm writing a script to compare, which will insert data in ClickHouse and Postgres and compare the data using the SQL queries. So I'm in middle of writing that script. And once the script is written, we can start extracting SQL queries from our code base and start comparing the results. Yeah, and next is audit event type schema. So here we have actually defined all the static schemas and dynamic schemas into our code base. The next step here is to add a logger, which was merged today, and from there we can extract out the event names which are still pending and start defining new.
Would it be possible to like add Kibana link to this particular issue so that we can easily track that?
Yeah, I think once verification is done for that issue, I can share the plans.
Right. Next was the API endpoint to retrieve all audit events. Michael, wandering person.
This is under a group, right? That is invalidation. So I just tried it out in staging this morning. Seemed to work. So just waiting on the second validation by someone else. And yeah.
Great. So it sounds on track. Next was the violation export feature with Sam.
That one is in progress. I'm in the process of, I spec down the export a bit to exclude filters for now, and we'll follow up with the filters and once that one is shipped.
Next one is the replace the drop-down selection for default branches. Michael.
Yeah, so this one, the short-ish version is it was done with backend review, was done with the initial database review, a second database maintainer came with questions, everything got sorted out in Slack, but as part of that, the branch had to be updated, so lost the backend maintainer review, and the maintainer kind of went quiet for the last week. So recently assigned it to a new maintainer. They responded yesterday, so they had some spec suggestions. I'm just updated them, so hopefully we'll get that maintainer approval and get it merged in.
And next is the streaming audit events to Google Cloud. Hasuma.
Yeah, for this, the database schema and the mutation APIs are. I have written a new worker strategy which will start streaming to Google Cloud, which is in review right now. And once that is merged, this issue will be complete. It's on track right now.
And the final one to talk about was the group level settings for merge request approval rules with Ilya.
Yeah, I've started to dig the implementation plan for this. So we are moving this from not started to planning phase, and I expect to have something next week. It is a huge multi-milestone effort because adding the new level of approvals influence so many parts of the system. So basically this is in planning, and no issue is yet ready to be started before we flesh out the plan and agree on them, because I will need some kind of backend approval from the team there, because there will be some backend work there also.
Right, and that's it. I'll stop sharing. And Camelia, is there a design update at all?
I'm still like exploring the framework, like manage framework levels. I will start sharing design at the later, like Thursday, Friday, and get initial feedback. And it will continue like have a feedback session until the end of this milestone. So feel free to jump in at any stage. Like I just want to say again, like design is never done. So if you have anything, just send it my way. Thank you.
Great. Was there anything else anyone wants to talk about? Because that was the end of the agenda. No, I'll stop recording then.